Hey guys, welcome back. We're doing another Alex Hormozi review video today. This one is for business owners. You need to know this number. I love analytics. I love analyzing the data. In this video, he's going to go over LTV and CAC, so lifetime value and customer acquisition cost. These are two of the most important numbers you can possibly know and understand as a business owner. Now, before we jump into the video, be sure subscribe to the channel if you get any value from this whatsoever, because I constantly come out with videos like this every single day where I react to other founders and provide my insights as well as to how they've built their businesses. I'm also coming out with new content every single week, helping you grow your own business by getting more leads, increasing the size of your business, and learning how to invest the profits. That being said, let's jump into the video.
About a formula, better stated, a ratio that you need to absolutely know like the back of your hand if you want to grow a big ass business. And if you understand this number, you'll be able to make better decisions. You'll be able to predict how far you can scale your advertising, how profitable you're going to be, how many customers you can get, and a number of other factors that are all derived from this one number in the business. I cracked $100 million net worth at age 31. All of the huge growth in money came from times when this number was maximized. And most businesses kind of putter along at a mediocre version of this number. But when you really knock it out of the park, you can absolutely have a license to print money for as long as you possibly can. And at the very end, I'm going to tell you the two levers you can crank to move this number into the stratosphere. So what is the number? Well, the number is actually a ratio between two different numbers. And these numbers have multiple metrics that create those numbers. So it's an incredibly densely packed number, and it describes so many things that happen within the business. And it will tell you how much opportunity you have, which is why it's so exciting for me. The first number of this ratio is LTV, so lifetime value. Now, in common speak, people say lifetime value, but what they really mean is lifetime gross profit. And so let me explain the difference. Most people say lifetime value and they think, okay, well, somebody pays me $1,000 a month for 5 months. That means their lifetime value is $5,000. No, that's not the lifetime value. You have to take out the cost of delivering on whatever service or good you have, and then you have the lifetime gross profit, because that is the profit that you'll be able to reinvest in growing the business or that you'll be able to take out as a business owner. On the other hand, you have hard.
So one of the things he's referring to here, and you hear him talk about this all the time in his short form content, but acquire a customer for $1, fulfill the customer for $1, and have $1 left over to go get your next customer. You had just invented a money printing machine, and it's just how much money can you throw into that machine, right? That would be like a 3x like ROAS, or return on ad spend. So if it costs only $1 to acquire your customer, or customer acquisition cost, for example, that's what that'd be. But the thing is, these numbers scale. So if you're doing like high ticket coaching, for example, or if you're in a company like Gym Launch where you're charging $4,000 a month, theoretically, all you need to do is make $12,000 off of a customer in order to, spend $4,000 to acquire that customer, $4,000 to fulfill, $4,000 to get your next customer. That'd be 12. So off of 4,000 it'd be like $1,333 or whatever, 1/4 of 4,000 you could spend on acquiring your customer if your fulfillment was also $1,000, and then acquiring your next customer. Now the fun thing here is, how much does it take to fulfill? Now, usually based off of your total revenue, it takes about 30% to fulfill for your customer, but sometimes you can get that number down. And it really depends what you're doing, product or services, that number might be higher. So it really depends on what you're selling as to what those numbers need to look like for you to absolutely kill it.
Costs, which is the CAC, to get that customer to pay you the money. And so if you think about relationship between these two metrics, it's really how much it costs you to make more money. And so you spend money to acquire a customer, or time, which still costs money, to make more money. And this is the fundamental economic unit of the business that propels the business and predicts how big it can get. If I see a small business ad at 100-to-1 LTV to CAC ratio, and they have a reliable way of getting customers, then I know that this thing can scale to the absolute moon, because I can get so inefficient. I can be 1/10 as efficient on my advertising and still have 10-to-1 returns. And so people get obsessed in the stock market about 5%, 10% per year returns. Whereas the reason that businesses can create disproportionate wealth in very accelerated time periods is because you can put $1 in and get $100 back tomorrow. There's nothing else that does this. And that's why mastering the LTV to CAC ratio has been something that I've obsessed with my entire life as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and now as an investor. So let me tell you what it looks like when it's done wrong.
So, and this is like one of the things, if you listen to Russell Brunson, he has talked about how it costs more and more over time to acquire a ClickFunnels user. However, he's also said that that's okay in a lot of instances because the LTV, how much money they make back off of a ClickFunnels user, is a lot, so they can afford to spend a lot of money. Why am I forgetting the guy's name? The famous OG internet marketer with the handlebar mustache, Dale, what's his name? I do believe. He always said it's not who makes the most money who will like win at the end of the day. It's who can afford to spend the most on advertising. So the tighter ship that you run, the more you're able to spend on advertising, which means you can spend more on acquiring a customer, right? Run your other competition out. But at the same time, on the reverse end of the spectrum, if you're like doing what Alex Hormozi is talking about here and you can get really good at marketing, or your product is just so much more expensive than what it costs to acquire a customer, you can get 100 to 1 return on your marketing dollar, which is where you can really scale and get a lot of enterprise value and create a lot of wealth for yourself out of your business.
So I had a Facebook ads agency come up to me and say, hey, we're crushing it. We're getting 5 to 1 return on our ads, meaning costs us $1 to make 5. And so it costs us $2,000 to get a customer and they're worth $10,000 to us. And they're like, but we're losing money every month. Rather than jump immediately into payroll and try and figure out what the costs were, I said, well, break down your LTV metrics for me. And again, I'll use LTV because that's what common speak is in business world. I say lifetime gross profit because I think it's more specific. So break down your LTGP for me. And he said, okay, it's $2,000 a month for our service and the average person stays 5 months. And I was like, okay. In other words, they had 20% churn. So you take the price divided by churn, which is 20%, equals $10,000. So there's 2 different ways of explaining it. 5 months on average is $2,000 times 5 is 10, or $2,000 divided by 20% churn is also 10. You have to know this stuff. I know people don't like money math, but I swear to God, if you can't do this division, you will literally never make money. Okay, back to it. From the $2,000 a month, I was like, so what do they pay in ad spend? It's like, oh no, we wrap it into that. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. What are you spending per month for them in ad spend? They're like, well, we budgeted $1,000.
Just for the record, the famous guy who said that is Dan Kennedy. New started with a D, not Dale. It is Dan Kennedy. He actually does a lot of partnerships with Russell Brunson now, which is pretty cool for Russell, I guess. But yeah, he basically said if you can spend more, you can destroy your competition.
$1,000 a month. I was like, okay, so $2,000 becomes $1,000 left over. I was like, okay, do you have a super efficient delivery model? And they're like, yeah, every account gets, a representative. I was like, okay, well, how many accounts can a representative handle? They're like, well, we used to do 10, but they can't really handle that, so we have them do 5 accounts. I was like, okay, well, what do you pay those reps? And they're like, well, $5,000 a month each. And I was like, okay, $5,000 a month each divided by 5 accounts means $1,000 per account. So $1,000 went to ad spend, $1,000 went to management, $0 left over. And I was like, so what you guys have figured out is a way to take $2,000 and turn it into 0. And they looked at me like I had, killed their mother. But the point is, this is an extreme example, but a lot of businesses have this situation where they have a cost of goods, they have some cost of service that's added on top, and they take it as though it's revenue, when it's really, you have to look at the gross profit, what's left over after you deliver the goods. Now, to be clear, there are fixed costs in a business, meaning you've got rent, you've got some people that have nothing to do with delivery. You don't factor this into gross profit because if you sell an additional unit, that additional gross profit goes to you that you can either reinvest in the business or just pocket as a business owner, which who doesn't like that? And so fundamentally, this is LTV. This is how much money you make from the customer for real, not your wink, wink, Stripe screenshot. And if you're a business owner and you like learning this language of business and want...
Here's the other thing. People will share Stripe screenshots all the time and talk about total revenue. And I like what he's hinting at here. And you know what? I'll even add this in. Sometimes here at Landing Media, we're guilty of using a Stripe screenshot or 2. However, the big difference is we don't spend money on ads. All of our marketing is organic, so we take a lot out of the business and like personal distributions because we have a lot more money that we can take out. There's a lot of like people who say they have 7-figure businesses, but like 30 to 50% of that goes out the door to Zuckerberg or Google or whoever it is they're using to run their ads. So you have to be aware of that when you're looking to like hire a coach or a consultant or someone to work for you. because you don't know what their ROAS is unless they're talking about that publicly, unless they're being honest about what their customer or what their CAC is in this case, their customer acquisition cost is, how much money it takes, and what their expenses are. You have no idea if they're actually killing it or if they're being killed.
Want to understand more deeply the many other metrics that exist in the business so that you can pull on the levers that accelerate the value you have. We just started a workshop division at acquisition.com for companies that we don't own. If you want to see if you qualify, you can fly out to Vegas. We spend a whole day with the company and our teams there, and it's interesting. It's simple to understand. It's just how much it costs you to get the customer. And all you have to do here is just look historically. You say, okay, over the last 30 days, I spent this much on my marketing payroll. I spent this much on my media, the advertising dollars I spent, and I spent this much on my sales team in commissions. You add all that up, and then you divide that by how many customers you got. So if you spent $10,000 in ads and you spent $10,000 in payroll between sales and marketing, your cost is $20,000. And if you had 20 customers, then it'd be $1,000 a customer. That would be your CAC. And so then you look at that CAC, which now is very clear. A lot of people can understand their CAC quickly, where they get messed up is their LTV. But once you have these two metrics, you can understand the fundamental economic unit of the business, which is when I put $1 in here, I get this much juice on the back end back to me. So let me talk about what it looks like when it's done right. And this is where you start printing money. So I'm gonna give you an extreme example that some of you guys may or may not have heard of. So there's this little company called Starbucks that has a little coffee business. You might have heard of them. They've got 38,000 locations. You wanna know how they were able to grow to that scale without franchising to grow. Now they do have a tiny little bit of franchising, but the vast majority of the stores are corporate owned. And so something that has cost that much capital opening up, you got all these new stores, you got these build outs, you got marketing budgets for these local locations. How are they able to do that and do it privately? They made a lot of money every time they put $1 into their economic machine. So let me tell you how much money they make. Every customer that comes into Starbucks, the lifetime value, how much money they make from a customer is $14,099. And that is gotten $5 macchiatos at a time, $6 frappuccinos at a time. And that means that they keep customers for years and years and years and years. It turns out that when you boil hot water and you sell it for $6, you make a lot of money. And one of the crazy things about a business like Starbucks is that the cost to acquire a customer for a local food business is typically very small. Now, I don't know their CAC, and I probably could look into their public data and try and figure out how many customers they have. But I'll tell you that I had a personal experience marketing for a cookie company years ago. I ran ads locally for them to have a free cookie with a beverage. The average lead cost was under $1, and we got 1 out of 10 leads in the door. And so it cost us $10 to get somebody in the door. If you have a $14,000 lifetime value and it costs you $10 to get somebody to walk in the door, you make a lot of money. And so that wasn't a 5-to-1, a 10-to-1, even a 100-to-1 return. That was a 1,400-to-1 return. And
this is like the great thing about brick and mortar stores that people don't want to talk about, is that like if you're doing a cookie store, and like this is harder because like Crumble is in every store in America now, but prior, if you wanted to come in and do a cookie store, you probably didn't have a lot of competition around you. So if you earn a customer and, don't take them off, you earn their business by providing a good service, right? They're most likely going to come back to you again and again and again, giving you that like 1,400-to-1 return. And at a certain point, it doesn't even make sense for you to run ads per se in an area because everyone might know that you're there. You might have, saturated the market. Now, granted, at a certain rate, you always want to let people know that you're still there because people move in, people move out, people forget about you, so on and so forth. But again, that's the great thing about brick and mortar stores is people see you when they drive by, and once they've been there once, they kind of know who you are, right? Versus if you're an online business, they might not ever drive by your site again if the algorithm doesn't feed you or feed them your content, so on and so forth.
That is how you build something that is absolutely massive. So once you get into business, whether you're at $1 million or $3 million or $10 million, whatever it is a year that you're at, you start to run into this wall. It becomes more costly to get customers because you're reaching out to colder and colder audiences, you're going to new channels to find them, and it just simply costs you more. And so the only way to continue to scale, obviously you can make your ads better, you can make your offers better, but the other way to scale is to be able to afford to simply acquire customers for more expensive. And so let's say that Starbucks cost to acquire a customer went from $10 to $50. Well, boo-hoo, still really, really good. The point is that if you have a massive LTV to CAC,
going back to the Dan Kennedy quote, they make more money off of their customers, therefore they can afford to spend more to acquire customers. So if you look at like Starbucks versus Dutch Bros or Starbucks versus Blue Bottle, or any other coffee, like local coffee house competitor, right? Whoever has the bigger LTV, who can retain the customer for longer, who can make more gross margin off of them, is going to have the advantage. And that's part of the reason why you see these different economies of scale, and like why companies like either Dutch Bros or Starbucks just learn to dominate these markets, is because they come in, and the local coffee store can't compete with the same marketing budget that Starbucks can put up to own the market there. And again, you just have to realize what game you're playing. So if I'm the local coffee shop, how am I going to compete with Starbucks if they come to where I'm at? One, I'm going to try and dominate things they can't. So things like search, things like local meetups, understanding the community, serving to different aspects of the community, knowing location better, right? There's all these different things that you can do to compete on a level if you can't necessarily spend as much money as like this national chain could.
Ratio.
Other things to include, obviously, like Alex Hormozi is talking about it. I'm dumb for not bringing it up, super dumb. But increase your gross margin. Figure out how to run a more efficient operation, charge more, deliver your product for less, whatever it is. Because I love Sam Walton, but he has a quote that goes along the lines of like, if you're not saving your customers money, like your inefficiency by spending more on a product is someone else's opportunity. So you just have to remember that at the end of the day. Otherwise, you're going to get completely hammered by your competitor.
Your CAC can double or triple and you're still printing money. And so that allows you to enter new marketing channels, new media channels, colder audiences, and outspend your competition. And so this is in some ways an ethical, competitive moat. There's two ways to have a monopoly. One way is that you have a way to undercut everybody in the marketplace so they can't survive, and then eventually put everyone out of business because you have enough capital to do so. Another way of having a monopoly that is legal is that you can literally just outspend people to get customers. And so most advertising marketplaces are based on an auction. So they auction for attention, and the highest bidder is the one who wins the eyeball. They win the click. And so if you, in the purchase of the eyeball or of the click,
if that didn't make sense to you, just think of it like the stock market, right? Someone's selling a stock, and whoever's willing to pay that amount to buy the stock, that's the price of the stock. Same thing that's going on when you're buying a Facebook ad, Instagram ad, Google ad. Google probably does it the best. They've also done it the longest. Facebook definitely giving them a run for their money, though.
You can outspend 100% of your competition, then you can ethically take all of their money and all of their customers. The reason this is so important as a business owner is that if you don't know these metrics, you might be able to get to $1 million, $2 million, maybe $3 million a year, but you're not going to be able to scale beyond that because you're not going to have a consistent way to spend money on the front end and then know how much you're recouping and at what time. And so I had a business owner who actually was a business coach, ironically, who was doing $3 million a year. And I said, well, what's your LTV to CAC ratio? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, how are you doing this, right? And I say this with love. I just said, know your data so that you can scale your company. I just kept repeating, he just kept asking me questions. I was like, you have to know your data so that you can scale your company. That's it. And
so I have these same conversations with our clients, like how many total views are you getting across all your social media platforms? How many people are going to your LinkedIn bio? How many people are actually going to the link? What's your traffic? What's your conversion rate? So like if someone goes to that link in bio, how many people book a call, submit a form, sign up? And if you don't know those numbers, it's going to ultimately kill you because you have no idea what your inefficiencies are, whether your content is resonating with people so they actually go to your bio and click on that link, whether your sales page actually communicates that you understand their problem so that they sign up for either a sales call or your service immediately. And again, if you don't know what your sales numbers are, if you're closing, you don't know what you need to train on from a sales perspective in order to take someone from they don't know who you are or barely know who you are to signing with you as a client for your products or services. Again, data will make you rich if you track it and you know how to analyze it. Those are the two things you need to know what to do with data in order to just destroy everyone else. And what's crazy is most people don't do this. It's probably the biggest opportunity anyone has in any industry to come up and figure out what the inefficiencies are and beat your competitors.
These two data points are so simple to get, and yet so few businesses do it. And this is not a testament to the fact that you can succeed despite it. It's a testament to the fact that that's why so few businesses make money. I mean, shoot, only 1 out of every 250 businesses gets to $10 million a year. And getting to $10 million a year, you just have to follow fundamental business and know that I make $10 for every $1 I put in. I want to run this machine as many times as I can. So let me break down a couple of these comp sets for you. So you've got the LTGP and you've got CAC, all right? CAC's the easy one. Just whatever your cost is on a monthly basis divided by number of customers. You can look at this on a monthly basis, you can look at a weekly basis, and if you really want an accurate metric, look at over a year. Just say, how much did I spend over this entire year in payroll for marketing, total in ad spend, total whatever, and you divide it by number of customers. It's back of napkin, but honestly, that takes out a lot of the volatility of campaigns, good sales guys or bad sales days, whatever, and it gives you a number that's realistic. This is actually how much it costs me to get a customer. Now on the lifetime gross profit side, there's a few more numbers. So you have your price, most people know what that is, and then you have to subtract out your cost of goods sold. All right, now in a physical product business, if I'm selling books, let's say it costs me $10 to print and ship a book. If I sell the book for $20, then my gross profit is $10. Most people in the physical product space tend to get this pretty quickly. What's interesting is that the service-based guys don't get it at all. And so for some reason, they think, okay, well, I have 5 guys on payroll that do all of my delivery. All of the customers I get is just all profit. It's like, no, you have to take out the fact that you've got 5 guys on payroll and you've got 20 customers, and you take that payroll and you divide it by 20, and that's what your cost of delivery is, which means that the cost of deliver may change as you get more customers. But you can model out what it looks like at scale. So if you know that every 5 you need to hire another guy, then each guy's gonna max out at this, and you know that that's gonna be your fixed amount of cost to deliver your service. And so the service guys tend to get this more mixed up than the physical product ones. Now, once we know what our gross profit is, which is just the price minus that cost, then it says how many times do I get this? And so that's a function of either the number of purchases they make or the number of months they stay. The number of months they stay, you can take the inverse of that, which is what percentage of people leave, and you can divide that, and you can get it as a hypothetical metric. And so I'll give you an example. A lot of business owners who are younger or starting out are like, okay, well, I've only been in business for 6 months, and so I don't know what my LTV is because people are still coming in and we're still growing. You can actually still get a hypothetical on this, which is you just simply say, I had 10 customers last month. Of the 10 that I started the month with, 30 days later, how many of those 10 are still with me? If 9 are with you, then you have 10% churn. And so you divide your price by 10%, and that gives you your LTV, which is the same as multiplying it by 10, which means the average duration they stay is 10 months. And that's why they call it lifetime gross profit. And so once you understand this, this gives you an enormous amount of power to do a number of things. So number one is, I had a business the other day that came to me and was saying, hey, I have 2 front ends for my business. It was a hair salon girl. And so she was able to teach other hairstylists how to make extensions. I think she was charging $2,000, something like that, to teach them how to do extensions. And then she also had like a business coaching thing where she helped them grow their business. And she said, I'm running ads for both of them. I don't know how I should structure my business. And I was like, okay, well, what's the LTV to CAC? She had done her homework. And so she said, well, this one, we make 34 to 1. Meaning her cost to get somebody who wanted to learn how to get hair extensions or how to put hair extensions in, it cost her like 30 or 40 bucks, whatever the math is there, on a $2,000 sale. And so she had a $2,000 sale, and so she was getting 30 to 1 on that. And so it cost her 67 bucks to get a customer who's gonna pay her $2,000 for a digital product. So the rest of that's gross margin. Wow, what a great LTV to CAC, right? On the flip side, she had her business coaching thing, which she had something close to like 7 to 1. And so that thing was $15,000, and it cost her whatever it was, $2,000 to get the sale. And so she's like, well, I like these customers a lot, but there's fewer of them, and they cost more to acquire. And she says, so what should I do? Because these obviously stack up fast. You get 10 sales, make 150 grand in a month. It's not bad, right? And she's like, I got to sell so many more of these. And so I asked her these questions. I said, well, are there more of these people that just want the hair thing than these people? And she said, yes. I said, is there a percentage of these people that also buy this thing? And she said, yes. I said, great. And so what we need to do is you stop advertising this, and then you make this the first.
So essentially, if you think about this, if you have different products or different offers, you kind of need to decide which one is your top of funnel offer. A lot of people will refer to this as like a tripwire purchase, for example. So like Grant Cardone, you won't always see him advertising his like higher ticket stuff, but oftentimes what you'll see him advertising is buy my book plus shipping, buy this course for $7, buy this, buy that. And it doesn't, it's not a lot of money. And a lot of times they'll just run these campaigns that break even. They actually don't make any money off of them, but they'll get tons of contacts. So what, like he's saying here, like promote the 30 to 1 offer and get some of those people who buy the 30-to-1 offer to then do the 7-to-1 offer, right? Either do that with retargeting ads, but you really don't need to do that, because if you have a good sales team, you just have those people contact the same people on your list, right? So you get that efficiency if you're not even spending money on it, right? You're just having, and I mean, you are spending some money because you have to have your sales team, contact those people. So you have your sales cost, but you don't have the same marketing cost as you would if you're running ads on a platform like Instagram.
Front end for this, and this becomes the back end. And so then all of your focus after you acquire the customer is to ascend these people into this thing, which means your cost to acquire a customer for here becomes 0. And then we can tack on 20% of this price to the total LTV here. And so this is how you start stacking LTV. The point is let's say she got 20% of people to do the $15,000 thing. So that means that $2,000 becomes a $5,000 LTV. So let me break that down. So $2,000 guaranteed, because every person who buys gets that. Now we multiply 20%, the number of them that buys the $15,000 thing, which is 20% times 15,000, $3,000, and then you add that to the front end. So it means 1 out of 5 pays an extra 15. Great, so that means on average you make $5,000. So that took her LTV to CAC from 30-to-1 to 75-to-1. That means that she can market even more aggressively and...
See, that's exactly what I was saying. It's just arbitraging the cost to acquire the contact, essentially, because once you have them, like, you can just call them. You don't need to pay Facebook to say, hey, put this person in my funnel again. Guess what? They're already in your sales pipeline. Just have your sales rep or yourself call them. And ideally, like in a situation like that, you're going to just have an account manager that is, dealing with that person who's learning to, do hair extensions or whatever it may be. And when they're done with that course or program or whatever, that account manager who has the relationship with the customer is going to reach out and then get them to ascend to that next level, theoretically, right? So again, it's one of those things where you might not even necessarily need an additional salesperson. You could just pay a commission on top of what you normally pay that account manager for. And again, it depends on the business model, what industry you're in, so on and so forth. But that's like one of the most efficient ways to not double up on different salaries that you have in the business, and to also get people to ascend to your other offer without having to market that offer.
She can market to the biggest TAM. Many of you have 1 or 2 or 3.
TAM is total addressable market, if you don't know what that is.
3 different products or offers on the front end, and you're trying to figure out what's the thing I should advertise. Look at the LTV to CAC, and then start with the thing that has the best LTV to CAC ratio, and then stack behind it everything else. And then that further increases your ratio of how much you can spend to get the customer to make more money. So many business owners ask me questions that they can solve with math. Like, this is an opinion thing. This isn't like, well, I talked to 3 mentors and one guy gave me this advice. And this is a math problem, which is why you have to learn it. And so if you have a stronger LTV to CAC, the exception here is if the TAM is tiny, your total addressable market, the number of heads that you can sell. But most of you who are listening to this aren't even close to saturating your market. You're like, I've sold 100 customers and my market is 1 million people. Okay, you don't need to worry about saturation yet. And so fundamentally, if you've got something that has an ocean of customers and you have a crazy amount of what you put in versus what you get out, you do as much of that as you possibly can, and then you stack the other things behind it to further increase your leverage. The last consideration that I'll bring up, which is already factored into LTV, is the operational efficiency. So let me explain. I had a business that we were looking at acquiring. It was a chain of glass repair. All right, and they specifically focused on glass work for residential. And so they had a number of different customers that they worked with. They had high-end, $1 million plus homes that would have those big glass, things and weird bathrooms and whatever people do with glass. One of the partners from that business peeled off and started a chain only doing one thing in the entire product stack. And so what he did was he did his homework. He figured out that shower doors were a product that was very easy to sell. Many people wanted it. There was a huge market for people who just wanted to replace their shower doors. And the delivery, so the cost of goods sold to deliver the door was actually very low. And so one guy could do 5, 10 doors a day, whereas doing the custom glass work might take months. So even though the ticket was higher, they could productize that service to such a higher degree.
I cannot emphasize volume enough when it comes to your business offer, because you might have some people, and it just depends on your lifestyle. You might have some people where, for example, my uncle, he runs an antique shop, right? He will take very custom things, sell them to millionaires and billionaires, right? and he'll sell those things for a lot. This art that he creates, these antiques that he finds, and the unique way he does that. But he can't scale that. So even though he might make a lot of money per individual piece, he might even make a decent amount of money overall, it's hard to achieve any level of scale versus like the ultimate scale person at scale, talking, just read Sam Walton's autobiography, Made in America. Walmart is like the epitome of scale, that and like at Costco. The only thing Costco does better, and oh my gosh, I love Saul Price and is it David Pierce? I love them so much because their stores a little bit bigger than Walmart on average, and they have a much higher revenue per square foot than Walmart does. They're closer to Tiffany revenue per square foot than Walmart is. And again, this is like the perfect example of where you can merge like price with volume. So like Walmart, cheap price, Costco, as far as the revenue per square foot goes, and on average, your items are going to cost more money. Tiffany's highest amount of money per item and highest per square foot, but Costco has that volume where literally if they change like the price of their gasoline by a penny, it makes a difference of billions on the balance sheet just by a penny. When you compare that to Tiffany's, they can't do that with their volume. The penny doesn't make that much of a difference because of the scale at which they sell. So excellent example with the window glass painter. You just have to realize that certain things, if you can do them more in your business, they're going to make you substantially more money. And they're actually going to make your business a lot more profitable. If you go watch the last live react video I did to Alex Hormozi's other video talking about it's not real estate. Basically, it's talking about how you can acquire companies, make them more profitable, what exits look like, revenue multiples, all of that. If you get a certain amount of scale, you also have more employees, your business becomes more stable, and you get what he calls a price premium where you get more money because you do more revenue in your business. And basically it's just saying you own more market share, your business is a little bit more stable, it's less likely to go away. And that can just make just an immense difference when it comes to you selling your company. And if you didn't know this already, entrepreneurs make 90% of their cash on the day that they sell their company, right? Everything else is pennies compared to the day you exit. And that doesn't matter if you're going public or selling to a private equity firm or to another owner, doesn't matter. You just make the majority of the money when you sell.
And the LTV to CAC was actually higher, even though the average ticket was lower. And so because of that, though, he could turn this into a machine that he could repeat again and again and again. And I had the same conversation with somebody who was in the pool design business. He said, well, I design commercial pools, I design resort pools, I design residential pools, and I design modular pools. And I said, okay, how hard is it to do all these? And he's like, well, they're all kind of hard, but these ones, the modular pools, are the ones that like I could do easily because it's only like 6 or 7 variables and you just kind of plug them together. And I was like, okay. How is the margin on that one? He's like, well, the margin's good there, and I also have a much faster cycle because you can, from the time they say yes to the time it's in their backyard, is really fast. And I was like, okay, are there more people who can buy modular pools than resort pools? And he was like, yeah. Okay, now we're starting to talk about something that looks interesting. And so he was like, what do I do? And I was like, well, this is a math problem. You have something that has a higher LTV to CAC, you have a higher TAM, and it's something, and this is just side benefit, it's faster. So you have a way faster loop, and you can productize this to much higher degree, whereas all of this stuff is custom and one-off stuff, which makes it very, very difficult to scale. Many of you have a big resort thing and a modular pool. Many of you guys have custom glasswork in the house or a shower door. You want to find the shower door in your business that everyone immediately understands. They can come in that's really cheap. Many people want it. You can deliver that value quickly. Now, some of you are like, well, I'm not passionate about shower doors. The question is what game you want to play. Listen, there's tons of people that are out there that say like, follow your passion, whatever. In my opinion, so this might be contrary, business at the highest level is all the same. So if you succeed at your passion to a high enough degree, your business and what your day-to-day will look like will almost entirely be the same. You're gonna be having a team of people who report to you, you're gonna have a head of sales, you're gonna have a head of marketing, you're gonna have a legal, you're gonna have IT, you're gonna have finance, you're gonna have some ops, maybe some tech, whatever. All those people are just gonna roll into you. And so whether you're selling books or you're selling pools or you're selling shower doors, you're selling marketing agency services, if you succeed, taking to its natural end, you're going to end up in the same boat. So I'd recommend starting with the one that has the highest chance likelihood of getting there. Because otherwise, what you don't want to have happen is have your passion turn into work. So what many of you guys don't know is that the first year of Gym Launch, My LTV to CAC ratio was 100 to 1. I spent $100,000 and made $10 million back. And yes, it was that insane for me too. A lot of the wealth that I've been made is made in these punctuated periods of time when my LTV to CAC ratios were absolutely absurd. And so when you have one of those things, and if you do crack this code, I highly recommend jam is.
Yeah, he's going to say do as much as you can, strike when the iron's hot. If you're from a farming background, you know, you put hay up when the sun's up, right? So I can't emphasize, I can't emphasize how important it is when you have opportunities like that to act fast. You know, almost everyone who has watched this or will watch this video was probably at an age where they could have been in some sort of, you know, business capacity during 2020, 2021. And we all know what happened. TikTok blew the crap up. And then short form followed with Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts. Every other platform has followed. And there's been multiple opportunities where you could have gone from literally zero to millions of followers and views pushing whatever your product or service is. So when you have opportunities like that, you have to take massive advantage and make massive action.
As much as you possibly can through that machine. You think it's going to be illegal because you're making so much money. And that's okay, it's normal. Just keep pushing as hard as you can. Let's talk about how to improve it. So I've talked briefly about the LTV stuff, which for the most part is going to be decreasing churn, increasing price. Those are the things that are going to increase LTV, and having additional cross-sells and upsells. I'll just give you the highlight reel of how to improve that. You can increase the price, you can decrease the cost of delivery, you can get people to buy more times, you can cross-sell them additional things. So that's like if you buy a burger, you buy fries. You can upsell them a better version of the thing. So instead of this burger, you get a sirloin or Wagyu burger. You can sell a higher quantity of that, 1 burger to 2 burgers. You can downsell them, turning a no sale into a sale. So they would have been a 0, and instead of you get a junior Whopper, you get a smaller burger. Or you go from a sirloin burger to a mystery meat burger, right? And so that's the downsell. That gives you more, better, smaller, worse, cross-sell different, more number of options that you sell, increase the price, decrease the cost of goods. And you can do that with any product you have. If I sell iPhone cases, I can increase the price of this case. I can become more efficient with the manufacturing to decrease the cost of my delivery to make this case. I can cross-sell a wallet that tacks onto this. I can increase the likelihood they buy another case in 6 months by trying to say, hey, do you want to have different color cases so you can do them by mood? I can increase the number of cases saying, hey, do you want a spare case? I can increase the quality of the case and say this is a metal case versus a plastic case. I can make this a cheaper case. Or I could do in terms of the quality of the material, or I could sell fewer units if I had that case. Every product that exists on the marketplace, you can find a better version, a more version, a cheaper version, a fewer version.
Huge hint here, cheapest version and more version. If you're trying to do both of those at the same time, you're probably going to kill yourself, kill your business, right? It's easier to do more expensive than less in the beginning because it gives you a greater gross margin until you can get those efficiencies. So even though he's talking about figure out how to, do the most amount of people, you usually have to start with doing something a little bit more expensive to fewer people in order for you to actually have a chance of getting your head above water. And then it's starting from there. And, it depends what you want your brand to be, what you want your overall market position to be in the long run, so on and so forth. But it's very hard to start out and say, hey, I'm going to compete with Walmart. I want to undercut them on price. Well, guess what? You're probably not going to do that because they have the relationships with the suppliers. They have the distribution centers. They have the storefront locations. They have the back-end data analytics. They have so many things that you don't have and that you probably won't be able to compete with. So it'd be much easier to say, hey, I'm going to be a little bit higher end. I'm going to be like Whole Foods, but a little bit more natural or serve this specific niche for like people who want to follow a keto diet or a carnivore diet and market specifically to them to acquire your customers and only compete on that level versus saying, hey, I'm going to beat Walmart day one.
Cross-sold version, you decrease the cost of goods, you get them to buy more of them, or you increase the price. Those are the ways that you increase LTV. And so if you want to improve your ratio, that's your homework for this video. And you can show this video to your team and you have to check off those boxes. Okay, if we did have our book, how do we make this book make us more money? Well, I can raise the price of the book. I can try and buy volume of printing so that I can drive down the cost. I can spread out the books between 3 different warehouses so that I can have cheaper shipping prices because it's closer to my customers. Those would be the first 2, price and then cost of goods. I can cross-sell an additional book. I can try to get somebody to buy more of this book. Can't really get someone to buy less of this book. I could have a booklet or a summary version of the book that I could choose to
Or an ebook, right? Digital.
sell. That would give me a worse or inferior version of the book. In terms of decreasing quality, if I sold a number of units, instead of selling a 3-pack, I'd downsell a 1-pack. And so each of these, you can look at any product through these lenses and think is, through each of those, which of these is the easiest for us to immediately implement within our business that doesn't create operational drag? Me writing a second book, probably a lot of work. Me asking people to buy a second book, much less work. Now, let's talk about decreasing the other side, because remember, this is a ratio, right? And so you could not change anything about your LTV and still massively improve the ratio by decreasing CAC, your cost to acquire a customer. And so what do you do here? So CAC is a funnel, right? And so in order to decrease CAC, it's about efficiency. And so advertising always works. You always reach people when you input something into the system. If you make a post, you reach people. If you were to spend $1 billion, you could reach everyone on earth, right? The idea is simply, how efficient are you with that dollar? And so with CAC, everything is a percentage off of 100%. So you start with an advertisement reaches 100% of people. And then a small percentage of those people click or take the first step. From there, you have a percentage of people that schedule, certain percentage of people that show, certain percentage that buy, certain percentage that then upsell, whatever. And so as you go through this funnel, to decrease CAC, you either have to get cheaper eyeballs, the raw unit that you're taking this price tag off of, or you improve the efficiency after you've paid for the eyeball to increase the likelihood that the person buys. In CRO, so conversion optimization, just like LTV, oftentimes there isn't a silver bullet. I would say the only thing that's the closest thing to a silver bullet in the CAC world is nailing your offer. Nailing what thing you're going to package together that you can put out in the marketplace that everybody wants. I'll give you an interesting moniker or concept around this, is that I build LTV back to front, meaning I want to think about the most expensive thing and work my way backwards so that I can stack as much lifetime gross profit into my customers as I can. I think about CAC front to back. The reason for that is that I want to optimize the things in the earlier parts of the funnel because they affect a higher percentage of people. You're often working with smaller percentages at the onset and bigger percentages later. And so I'll walk you through an example. So if your ad gets shown to, call it 10,000 people, and you have a 1% click-through rate, well, me having a better ad might get a 3% click-through rate. There's almost nothing that's going to take my show rate, well, there is nothing that's going to take my show rate from 60% to 180%. There's nothing that's going to take my close rate.
So if you didn't catch that math, 1 times 3, 1% times 3, so 300%, that'd be taking it from 1% to 3% is a 300% increase versus, taking a 60% show rate, gaining it to 180, just not going to happen. Only thing, because when you're talking about sales and funnels, so you have your click-through rate, right? You might have a different opt-in. So people might click on your ad, then they might go to an opt-in, then you might have an opt-in percentage, then you might have a booked call percentage, so people who actually convert from that, right? And then you're gonna obviously have your total book calls, your show rate. You might have a qualified rate, so sometimes sales reps will say that's who they made their offers to versus not. But again, those are going to be relatively high, and if your sales team and you have all the systems set up, so text campaigns are going out prior, email campaigns are going out prior, so they know when the call is, so that they'll show up to the call. Making sure that you're doing qualification prior, so your sales rep might be texting them. Making sure that they're qualified for your product or services, or you might have a setter that reaches out and either DQs or qualifies them. Then when people actually show up, your offer rate, theoretically, as long as they're qualified, you're gonna have a 100% offer rate, right? Number could go down, obviously, but as long as your sales reps are trained to offer, you're probably gonna have close to 100% offer rate. But then your close rate, this is the interesting thing, because on everything in the middle, the numbers kind of stay the same. They're really big. They're not going to go over 100, but at the end, and you're not going to get a 300% increase, probably, but a good sales team, you could take them, maybe they were bad, maybe they're only closing at 10%, you could take them to 30%, which would be that, it'd be a 3x, it'd be 300%, right? Or you might be able to take them from 20 to 40, 50%, right? Or 100% increase, right? or 40 to 50, give them a 25% increase, right? Obviously, the better they perform, the less room there is to actually have that increase versus on the front end. And like your biggest returns obviously come from the top of funnel. Like if you can go from like a 1% conversion to like a 10% conversion, that's like 1,000% increase. You're not going to get that from anywhere else in your funnel. Like you said, it affects more people. You get more people through. So understanding how that works, making sure you model it out in a spreadsheet is going to be absolutely crucial in order to you understanding like, okay, this is how much organic content I need to put out. This is how many cold dials I need to do. This is how much I need to spend on ads to get so much traffic, right? It's going to make your life a lot more easier to understand and give you a lot more confidence in your business and hitting your projections and goals in your own business.
From 35% to 105%. Like, it's not going to happen. I like going front to back because in terms of order of magnitude of how much I can impact or grow the business, or rather decrease the cost to acquire a customer, I can have a greater impact from the front to the back. I'll make one tiny pro tip on this, which is that I, in general, work front to back for CAC. If I have a clear outlier, if I have a 5% show up rate, but everything else is amazing, and I know the industry average is 60%, well then I do see that I have a 12x there that I can go get. It's just not often. And so most of the time, the biggest gains are going to come from improvement in advertising, improving the offer, improving the headline, and the availability of the team. If you have a sales team or if you have an e-commerce business, then it's going to be CRO on the page, the offer you're making on the page, the headline on the page, and the quality of the advertisements themselves. And so whenever I enter any industry, and to be fair, at this point, I've seen so many businesses because we get so much deal flow at acquisition.com, I have a really good pulse for what it costs to get a small business owner for an SEO agency. I have a pretty good pulse for what it costs to get somebody to buy a $99 a month software package. I have a pretty good idea of what it costs to sell someone into a franchise, right? There's very different benchmarks that exist, but the good thing is it's very rare that you have truly novel businesses because more often you're selling to an existing avatar. So even if you have a novel...
And usually, truth be told, you don't want to have a novel business in the sense that if no one's done it before, it's probably because it doesn't work. You're way more likely to have success if someone has done that business before. Probably, with the exception of restaurants. But like if you want to be like an auto parts repair store, there's tons of auto part repair stores out there. Now those might be trending towards doom because of the evolution of EVs and the lack of parts in EVs. But like you're gonna have a lot better chance because those stores actually exist and there's things to model off of versus this unicorn business that's never existed before, right?
Business, you're still selling to the same person. So it's going to cost you about the same amount of money to get in front of those people. And
example of that, Salesforce in the early days when they were kind of like inventing, and it's really hard to pinpoint who exactly came up with the model, but the whole like SaaS model, software as a service, and these monthly subscriptions, they had a lot of pushback from enterprises that wanted just to pay one-time licensing fees versus going off of a per user per month subscription, like SaaS model. And they weren't the only one. They really pioneered it. And luckily for them, that was just how the entire industry trended. And not to say that, people don't evolve over time or they can't evolve over time or that new business models won't exist. I'm just saying it's a lot harder, right?
And then convert them into a customer. Now, the variable will be what that person's worth to you, which is the LTV. But CAC is much less variable between different players. And so the reason that some businesses stay around forever and others don't is that the CAC between the biggest businesses is oftentimes about the same. The difference is how much LTV they've been able to stack. And that is what creates that long-term competitive advantage for them. And if this was a denser video, this was literally just unpacking one ratio inside of business. And you have to get fluent with this. I'd encourage you to rewatch it or re-listen to this if you're listening to it. You have to be able to breathe this stuff. This has to be your first language. If you want to get in business, this is the language of business. Your ability to conceptualize ideas is directly proportional to your vocabulary within a given domain. I create frameworks that people find simple because I'm fluent in the language. And I can draw pictures about it because I've had to think through it so many different times in so many different types of business. So I could draw it. What is the difference between selling a book and selling an iPhone and selling SEO services and selling a franchise? Can you apply LTV to CAC to investing? Interesting. What's your cost to buy a company? What do you make on that company over the lifetime? Interesting. It's just chunked up at another level where the product and the customer itself is really the business. So this principle applies at all levels of business. The more you ingrain it into your DNA and your lexicon and the language that you think with, rather than just what you speak.
So it was really interesting what you just said there with like, can you apply it to a business? Obviously, that's what his goal is with acquisition.com. So how much money he's putting into creating content every single month to attract these business owners that want to sell part of their business to him, to get him essentially as a mentor, as a founder, as a partner, to really scale that business to, above and beyond what they can on their own or faster, right? Two things, right? That are going on there. Versus, it's kind of like if, you're looking at other investments, that really applies to real estate, not so much to stocks necessarily, because there might not be a lot of research necessary. Obviously, there are Bloomberg terminals out there that cost $20K a month that allow you to have greater insights and have more access to information faster. But again, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, what can you apply that to, right? Asking yourself that question. And hopefully, with him, with what he's doing with acquisition.com, wish the best to him, but hopefully, like, he's going to make a lot more than what he's currently investing in, like marketing and advertising to acquire these different businesses.
Speak with, but what you think with. Understanding that this is the ratio that drives the business means that you're going to ladder up the initiatives and the activities that you do in the business to drive one of these two sides. If what you're doing is not getting you more customers cheaper or making those customers worth more, then you are probably wasting your time. This LTV to CAC ratio is just one of many numbers that we use to analyze and grow a business. And I have a YouTube video that's more.
All right. Awesome. Video's over. Before we jump into the Q&A, there's, I guess, a couple of people on live here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference for me reaching more entrepreneurs like yourself, helping them grow their businesses and invest the profits. That being said, if you guys got any questions related to data analytics, social media analytics, growing your business, lead generation, especially on the organic side. On the ad side, I'm not too much help right now. I don't have nearly as much experience in that as I do on the organic lead generation side. If you guys have questions, open to doing that for the next 5 to 10 minutes, or as long as you guys really have questions. So yeah, just comment them in the chat. If not, I will go ahead and wrap up this live in five-ish minutes. If no one has questions currently, I'm just going to talk about what I know best, which is literally just organic social media funnel. It's honestly probably what I talk about or talk to people most at Lightning Media. It's very similar to like the LTV CAC video we just watched with Alex Hormozi, but you kind of just have to understand what your funnel looks like on social media. So the vast majority of platforms, what that's actually going to look like is having a top of funnel where that's views, right? So on TikTok, people will watch your content on the For You page. The next step from there, if they're watching your content on the For You page, is for them to go to your profile. On their profile, there's a couple of different things going on here. They could be binging your content. They could be looking for a specific video. They could be just trying to read your bio to get a better feel of who you are, what you do. And like lastly, they could also be looking at where's your link in bio, because whatever you posted in that original video that got them to go to your profile on TikTok engaged them. Now, from there, they'll go to your link in bio, and that's where your funnel is. For a long time, I really suggested having a calendar call link in your link in bio just because it makes it super easy. You don't have to spend tons of time developing it. People can book in with you for a sales call because your content, your funnel, like that For You page, whatever content they watch, that's acting as your sales page, right? So at the end of the day, like everything you say in your videos is copy. It's what allows people to understand you, know what you do, so on and so forth, and makes them want to work with you if you're creating content through the proper lenses, like problemware, solution, or agitational. If you want to learn more about that, go to the link down in the description. Millionaire Archives, free resources in there about the VCF, the viral content formula, and how to use those different lenses to literally print money on social media. But from there, people go to your link in bio. And What you really want to look at is the conversion rate. So like the conversion from views to profile views, usually you want that to be around 3%. That indicates that your content is resonating. I've seen it go as high as 5-6%, but usually 3% is pretty good. If it's less than 3%, you're having issues, your content probably isn't resonating. And there's a real trick between making content that people not only want to watch, and also making content that provides value to them about your business, and also like your, showing your personal life, being a real person to them as well, because that's really going to help you build an audience. So there's that trick there. And then from like profile view to link in bio, or link taps, you really want to see like a 5 to 10% conversion there, because the majority of people who go there are actually looking at what you want to do. At least they should be, based off of your content. And again, it really depends what content you're currently making. If you're trying to like sell agency services, but you're just posting videos about your cat or dog, they're probably not going to convert very well. Or if you're doing just dancing or trending videos, they're probably not going to convert very well, because you have a million other people doing those exact same things. So unless you're doing it very uniquely or differently, it's probably not going to convert into customers. What tends to convert into customers the best is face-to-camera talking videos that goes through the different legends of agitation, problem aware, and solution aware. That is what we found that will take the most traffic and actually convert them into people who want to buy from you, because you're communicating that you understand them and you understand their problems better than they do, which indicates that you know the solution. So other than today, those are the numbers you really want to track. If you guys have questions, please, and weren't here for the Q&A, unfortunately didn't get any questions this time, but please comment them in the comment section, and I will be sure to get back to you. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys